What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to my channel, Movie Files. Elliot back again at the request of you all. I reviewed episode 1 of Winning Time last week, and you all said, hey, let's talk about this show every single Sunday. Here we are discussing episode 2 of Winning Time, which was titled, Is That All There Is?, which was directed by Jonah Hill. A very fascinating episode with Jerry West. We learn more about his past and what kind of drives him to winning, but ultimately drives him to leaving the Lakers as the coach. Jerry Buss is willing to do anything and everything it takes to win, and so much more. We're breaking it all down here in the spoiler review, but before we do so, make sure you're checking me out on all my other social media accounts. I love this community that we're building, and I want you to be a part of it. So if you love early movie reviews, TV reviews, live streams, and so much more, well, come and join the community by subscribing and hitting that notification bell. And as you can see on the screen now, if you enjoyed this review, we'll make sure to give it a thumbs up and also share it to all the fans you know that love this show just as much as we do so far. But more importantly, with you all doing this last week, leaving your personal connections to the Lakers, we got some Celtics fans that are liking the show and everybody in between. So go ahead and leave your thoughts on the second episode. Favorite moments, least favorite moments. What do we feel about the direction Jonah Hill? What do we feel about the characters Jerry West, Jerry Buss, Magic Johnson, everyone that we got in this episode? Let's talk about it in the comments below. So just my brief recap, or just kind of my review before we recap and break it all down. Like I mentioned, Jonah Hill was the director of this episode, and I'm a Jonah Hill fan. I don't know if you all have seen Mid-90s, his directorial debut. Really solid direction, and I thought that he brought a lot of his own sensibilities to this episode. Of course, it still has that, Adam McKay set the tone last week. We're going to get the fourth wall breaking, the entertainment aspects, but also diving deeper into these characters, to these legendary characters, and the performances are really strong so far. John C. Reilly is knocking it out of the park. I got to say, Quincy Isaiah is doing his thing as Magic Johnson, but man, Magic was an asshole in this episode. But if you're that competitive, you're competitive in everything in your life, including relationships. So I'm really excited to break that down with you all. But overall, a really solid second episode as we're seeing this dynasty building the pieces to what ultimately becomes the Showtime Lakers. So I really enjoyed the episode. But again, let me know your pros and your cons. Let's discuss in the comments. But let's break it all down as we open the episode in West Virginia, 1951, as we get this glimpse of a young Jerry West, him growing up in West Virginia. He's outside playing basketball in the snow because his mom and dad tend to argue. It seems like he grew up in a pretty tough environment in regards to his mom and dad, maybe not seeing eye to eye. But we see him shooting hoops, bloody hands, and we kind of fast forward to his one and only championship in 1972 with the Lakers. You would think, after all the hours put into basketball, the hard work, he would be the happiest man on earth winning that championship. But I think of connecting this to, I think of a recent player like Kevin Durant, right? When he won his first championship with the Golden State Warriors, he was just so driven to win a championship. He put his legacy on the line. He put his, his ego on the line, joining the Warriors, and building that super team. And he won a championship, and he won another one, as we know. But he ultimately left to go with Kyrie and playing with the Nets. But it always just speaks to, it's not all about the championships, as the title alludes to. Is that all it is, right? So I love that kind of duality and kind of that conversation that they're having with Jerry West, who is known as Mr. Logo, Mr. Clutch. He finally wins, but he's not that happy about winning it. As we cut to the next scene, fast forward to him winning that championship, we see him, he stumbles in this bar that happens to be having a wake from this guy named Bob. He meets this young lady, takes her to the hotel, has some sex with her. He has the confetti in his hair from winning the championship that night, which again, he just won a championship. You would think he would be out partying with his teammates, buying something, just being happy, but he's at a bar where it happens to have a wake, sleeping with some random woman, and just like, is that all? Is this the happiness I've been searching for? Which again speaks to, and I know the show is dramatized. I don't know if this was actually the mindset of Jerry West, but just in the narrative of the show, he is Mr. Logo, and he couldn't even find happiness in winning the championship. So I love how they plant the seeds there and how that ties into the end of the episode, which kind of brings us to present day, September of 1979. We see executive Bill Sherman, who was the coach of the Lakers in 1972, but now he's the executive. We see them putting the pieces to the puzzle together. Jerry West is there. They're talking about the draft pick. They're talking about the summer league. they're really trying to put the team together, and in comes the new owner who's a lot more hands-on than the previous owner, Cook. He wants to be involved with this. He wants to change the narrative. He wants, Showtime Lakers, but he also wants the Lakers to be taken seriously. He wants them to be looked at, to be feared, to be the next champion and overtake those Boston Celtics, who we'll talk about the big role that we got from Red Auerbach in this episode. But getting back into the conversation here, we see Wes isn't a fan of this new approach by Dr. Buss, but we see Buss tell him, I'm willing to spend whatever it takes to win these championships. Going to the next scene, which is the NBA owners meeting, we get to see the young RP2, the visionary commissioner of NBA for a long part of his career, and that is David Stern. David Stern has his doubts. Some of the other owners had his doubts in regards to this Dr. Jerry Buss. Is it just a hobby for him? Is this just going to buy a team and then walk away from the team a couple years from now? Well, Jerry wants to prove them differently. He's here to stay, and he's here to change his own narrative. But again, I'm loving seeing all these legendary people like a David Stern, who, again, as the show says, he's a visionary. He literally reinvented the NBA to what we know it as today, with international play and just really expanding the brand of the NBA. And again, RIP to David Stern. But speaking of a legend, we get our shot of 13-time champion, winning 7 of his rings. Big Red, he makes his appearance, played by Michael Chiklis, who I'm a fan of. I don't know if you ever used to watch FX. It was called S.H.I.E.L.D. Fantastic show. He's a great actor. He really, from what I know from like watching ESPN as a kid and watching the rivalry between the Lakers and Boston, he really kind of embodies what Red was all about, that persona, that bigger-than-life type of persona. And also, it's about them ring, 13 of them things, and 7 of them being against the Lakers themselves. I really appreciate all the appearances from some of these legendary people. And again, we got David Stern, we got Red. I love this so far. But getting back into Magic living different now, we cut to Magic Johnson at his parents' house, buying them new things after he just got his $500,000 check. His friends are looking at him differently. You got people coming to him with business plans, but they ain't impressing his mama. And I love this moment here with his mom, because you would think that, when you're in this position of power, especially a black man in the late 70s, making his way to the NBA, coming from where they come from and all that stuff, you would think everyone would be on his side, right? I'm going to be getting some money, winning some basketball games. I'm playing for the Los Angeles Lakers. But you need people like his mama to ground him, right? To say, none of that matters, son. And I love that she was pressing him about continuing his education. I love that narrative there, because it is so important to have people like, Mrs. Johnson to ground her son, to let him know the reality of the situation. Once you're done playing basketball, what comes after that? That's how important his education is, and that's why, as we know him to be the Magic Johnson he is today, you got to have those brains. You got to think, past basketball. You got to think of what's next. What's the next thing I want to accomplish? So I love that they have putting that seed in there of showing us it's not all about basketball. It's about more than basketball. It's creating your own legacy. So I love that narrative there that we get with his mom. Going back into just Jerry West's home as we cut to him still in his feelings about drafting Magic. And why is he so mad? His new owner just told him, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to win basketball games, as Bill is over visiting Jerry West, and he comes up with the idea, maybe I can do something with this 6'9" point guard, make him a power forward. Maybe I can really change things around. And we see Jerry West starting to get happy, starting to get his juices flowing, but that doesn't last too much longer, as we'll get to that point. But back to Magic, we get our first look, or I should say not our first look, because she appeared in episode 1, but I didn't really know. I guess I didn't really address this last week. I know Cookie and Magic. They're a power couple. She stood with him through all his turmoil, all the stuff he went through in the 90s and all that stuff. But I didn't know that they really kind of almost grew up together. She knew, and again, I know the show is dramatized. So I don't know if that is the case. I believe it is from what I remember from their relationship. But she's been there for a long time. She was there before the money. But she has a new man, Brian, who she brings to the house. And we see Mrs. Johnson's a fan of him. But Magic's like, listen, man, I got something for your ass a little bit later, but let's check back into Dr. Buss taking over the books. I love this scene right here between Dr. Buss and Claire, who doesn't like the idea that Frank is the one handling the books, but I love breaking the fourth wall here where Jerry wants to handle the books because money's a little thin. The finances aren't as strong as we know Dr. Buss kind of led the owners and someone like Claire to think they have. So again, I love, he's always just Going back to last week, the title being Swan. Everything was cool on top, but he is paddling those feet under the water. I still love that narrative there. But I love this conversation in regards to the change of tables, right? And giving her a little bit more responsibility with the forum. And just goes back to Showtime Lakers, but more importantly, the Showtime of the Lakers and the forum in LA, and bringing that buzz and that excitement to the forum. He wants her to bring in concerts, not only the basketball games, but singers and artists, and having like major events in the forum to, again, put the Lakers on the map, make the forum the hottest, the dopest place that people want to go to in LA. And we know that was the case back in the 80s and 90s. Then obviously turning, transitioning that to the Staples Center and Crypto.com. I hate that name, but again, it just shows you Dr. Buss was thinking ahead of his time. We got to make this not only the best basketball team in basketball, but we also got to make this city excited to come watch the Lakers, but also get the idea in their head. We got to go to the forum because there's always something fun going on in the forum. So I love how they planted that into the show. Getting back into it, we meet Jessie Buss, played by Sally Fields, and I really enjoy her inclusion in this episode. I'm excited to kind of learn where is Jerry, or I should say, Jerry Buss, where does he get all that charisma from? It looks like his mom, but also I'm enjoying how they're still showing us a young Jeanie Buss. And even at a young age, she had a lot of ideas. She had a lot of things she wanted to do with the team, with the forum, and a lot of people were pushing her off, which kind of speaks to her. If you all know her, as an adult, her brother got involved, and that's when we were kind of in those dark times as Lakers fans, and we weren't winning basketball games. There were some bad decisions being made in the offseason, but they never listened to Jeanie. So I love that they're showing that even at a young age, she had a lot of ideas, but no one was listening to her. But Claire does at the end of this episode. But again, I love meeting Mrs. Buss and also still continuing that narrative of no one's listening to Jeanie. She got some pretty good ideas. But going to anything for the church, I love this scene here. This is a pretty funny moment as we see Magic going to church after just handling his business in the car. He has the pastor saying, hey, again, everyone knows he got that $500,000. The stained window, hey, Magic, you mind helping the brother out? He gives, and I love that he gives the money over to Brian, just kind of, again, just taking shots at Cookie's new man, which I thought was funny. But cut to a really good scene here with Red and Buss. I love how even Red and David Stern and the owners and a lot of the people around Dr. Buss doubted him, right? And I love that Buss went to Red. Again, 13 championships, 7 against the Lakers. Let me pick your brain, man. How can we get this ball rolling? I love the rivalry there. You think that Red was going to give him an advice? You know who he coaches for? The Boston Celtics, Jerry. I don't think he was going to give you too many advice. But again, I love how Jerry's willing to go to his competitor, to someone that's won championships, to pick his mind. Again, a really good moment there. But it is time to play some basketball in this moment here. Magic definitely was feeling himself in this episode. And he was a bit of an asshole. But like I said up top, people like Magic, Larry Bird, MJ, Kobe, and all the greats, they're not just competitive on the court. They're competitive of every aspect of their life, including their relationships, as we see Magic taking Brian down to the post while talking smack to him, but also kicking his ass in front of Cookie. Again, I'm like, that was a bit of an asshole move, but Magic's trying to let him know, that's my girl. I don't care what's going on right now. You ain't hitting it right. I'm going to get her back. So again, he's competitive in every aspect of his life. And again, it was very assholery of him, but it just goes to show you he wants to win in everything. So I really enjoyed that scene there. But going back into it, we see Jerry is finally happy. We see Jerry happy, coming up with an idea. I'm going to try to win a championship. He's talking to his wife, which I got to say, his wife Karen wasn't like all that great in her acting. She was kind of the weakest link in the episode to me. She wasn't in it a lot, but that scene when she was just like, your ups and downs, Jerry, I can't deal with it. That scene was a little lackluster for me. But again, we're seeing him being happy, but he's starting to realize, man, basketball really brings out the worst in me, which brings him to the decision he makes a little bit later, which we end the episode with Buss ready for war, him telling Red that this is the future. The Lakers are the future. All those championships you all won against us, we about to change the table. We about to make the Lakers the number one team in the NBA. And if you all know the rivalry between the Lakers and the Boston Celtics, it was like alternating championships every single year. Lakers will win, Celtics will win, Lakers will win, and so on and so forth. So again, I love that Dr. Buss went up to Red. You don't want to help me? That's fine. I'm going to go ahead and kick your ass and become the best team in the NBA. As we wrap up the episode, we end with Dr. Buss telling everyone that the Lakers are here to stay. They're here to win, and he's willing to do anything it takes to win these championships. But their coach, Jerry West, walks up to him and says, hey, I got an idea. I think you're going to love it. We're going to win games, but it ain't going to be with me. And then we're going to find out who that, I'm a Lakers fan, so I know who the coach is. Not Pat Riley, but it's someone else who's an assistant coach during that time that actually helps get that first championship. But hey, that's my thoughts on the second episode. As I say, again, I love what Jonah Hill brought to the second episode. Again, I love the quick cuts, the fourth wall breaking, the jokes and whatnot, but I'm loving that we're diving into these characters. That's not all. Winning's not all, right? Even when you win a championship like Jerry West did back in 1972, he still was able to find happiness, right? Which leads him to walking away from the team. Basketball is kind of ruining his life. He always, as a kid, went to basketball when he was struggling, when he was going through stuff with his parents, but that ultimately didn't find the happiness that he was looking for. So walking away from the game, he might be able to find that happiness, which again speaks to these athletes in today's society and how a lot of these legends, if you don't win a championship, what does your career really stand for, right? I think of Karl Malone, I think of John Stockton, I think of all the legendary Charles Barkley and a lot of other legends, Allen Iverson. Just because they didn't win a championship, you don't think that they still are legends in the league. So I love that it doesn't just always result to you winning a championship to solidify you as a champion, but also solidify your happiness. So I love that narrative that we got within this episode. But hey, that's just my thoughts. Let me know yours, your pros, your cons, and of course, what you all hope to see in the weeks ahead in this fantastic show. So I appreciate you all watching last week's review, letting me know that you want to have this discussion every single Sunday. Here we are. So if you want to see me back next Sunday, show me by liking the video, sharing it, leaving your thoughts in the comments. And like I said up top, come and join the community, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell. Hope you all enjoyed the review. Hope you're staying safe. As you can see on the screen now, subscribe to the channel, check out my other content. We'll catch you on the next video.